In 1998, a 21-year-old Japanese footballer walked onto the World Cup stage in France. Nobody in Europe knew who he was. Nobody in Italy had heard his name. Nobody believed a player from Asia could compete at the highest level of football. By the time he left the pitch, Serie A clubs were fighting over him. By 2001, he had a Scudetto. By 2004, Pelé had named him one of the greatest living footballers on the planet. And then, at just 29 years old, in his absolute prime, he walked away. Forever. This is the story of Hidetoshi Nakata, the man who didn't just play in Europe. He changed what the world thought was possible. Kofu, Yamanashi Prefecture, Japan. A city in the shadow of Mount Fuji, known for its peaches, its wine, and until the 1990s, not much else. This is where Hidetoshi Nakata was born on the 22nd of January, 1977. The J.League didn't even exist yet. Professional football in Japan was barely an idea. But a young Nakata was already obsessed, not with the real game, but with a cartoon, Captain Tsubasa. An anime series about a boy who dreamed of winning the World Cup for Japan. Nakata has said directly, this cartoon is why he became a footballer. Not a real player, not a real club, a cartoon. That's how far football culture in Japan had to travel in one generation. By the time Nakata finished high school, the J.League had launched. Japan had a professional league, and Nakata, bypassing university entirely, which was almost unheard of in Japan at the time, signed his first professional contract at 18 years old with Bellmare Hiratsuka. In his very first season, 1995, he helped Bellmare win the Asian Cup Winners' Cup, scoring the winning goal in the 81st minute of the final. He was 18 years old. He was already different. By 1997, Nakata was named in the J.League Best 11. By 1997 and 1998, he won the AFC Player of the Year. Back-to-back, Japan's best player, Asia's best player. But Nakata had his eyes on something bigger. Europe, Italy, Serie A, the best league in the world at the time. Home to Zidane, Ronaldo, Vieri, Del Piero. A league where no Japanese player had ever made a real impact. Then came France, 1998. Japan's first ever World Cup, and Nakata showed up and absolutely announced himself on the world stage. His performances turned heads. European scouts who had never paid attention to Asian football suddenly had one name written in their notebooks. So here's what Nakata did. He dyed his hair blonde before the tournament. Not because it was fashionable. He said himself he wanted the European scouts to be able to spot him easily on the pitch. That is the level of calculated ambition this man operated at. At 21 years old, it worked. Perugia, a mid-table Serie A side, signed him for $4 million. Not a huge fee even by 1998 standards. But nobody believed an Asian player could handle Serie A. Nobody except Nakata Perugia, 1998. Nakata arrived in a country whose language he didn't speak, whose football culture was entirely different to anything he'd experienced, and where his mere presence was treated as a novelty act. He responded by becoming one of the best players in the league. His technical ability, his vision, his passing range, and his goals from outside the box, these weren't things Italian football expected from an Asian player. But Nakata didn't care about expectations. In 2 seasons at Perugia, he proved beyond any doubt he belonged. Then came Roma. AS Roma, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and in the 2000 to 2001 season, Nakata won the Scudetto, the Serie A title, Roma's first league championship in 18 years. Nakata was part of it, a Japanese midfielder winning Italy's most prestigious honor in a squad containing Francesco Totti, Gabriele Batistuta, and Cafu. Let that sink in for a moment. He went on to play for Parma, Bologna, Fiorentina, accumulating 182 Serie A appearances and 24 goals across Italian football. In 2004, Pelé compiled his FIFA 100, a list of the 100 greatest living footballers on earth. Nakata was on it, one of only 2 Asian players. And in 2005, the Italian government made him a Knight of the Order of the Star of Italian Solidarity, one of Italy's highest civilian honors. Here's the thing about Nakata that separates him from almost every other footballer of his era. He was never just a footballer. While other players were focused entirely on their game, Nakata was attending fashion shows in Milan. He was building relationships with designers. He was wearing clothes that no footballer had ever worn. He was in a Nike commercial, the famous secret tournament ad directed by Terry Gilliam, alongside Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Thierry Henry, Figo, Roberto Carlos, and Totti. Not as a token Asian player, as a peer, as one of the best players on the planet. He was on the cover of FIFA video games in Japan. He had 77 international caps. He was the face of Japanese football to the entire world. The Japanese David Beckham, people called him. 3 World Cups, 1998, 2002, 2006. Nakata played every single match Japan competed in across all 3 tournaments. Every minute, never missed, never dropped. 1998, the beginning. Japan lost all 3 group games, but Nakata's performances opened Europe's eyes. 2002, the co-hosted tournament on home soil. Japan reached the round of 16 for the first time in history. A nation went crazy. Nakata was the engine. 2006, Germany, the last chapter. Japan lost to Australia and Brazil, drew with Croatia. Nakata won man of the match against Croatia. And then, 4 days after Japan's exit on the 3rd of July 2006, Nakata posted a message on his personal website. He was done. He was 29 years old, in the prime of his career, still wanted by clubs, still more than capable of playing at the highest level. He simply decided he had done what he came to do, and he wanted to see the rest of the world. No farewell tour, no big send-off, just a blog post. And then he was gone. So what did Hidetoshi Nakata actually leave behind? Look at Japan's squad right now at the 2026 World Cup. Mitoma, Doan, Kamada, Ueda, players competing at the highest level of European football week in, week out. Players who grew up watching Nakata and thinking, if he could do it, so can I. Before Nakata, Asian players in European football were a curiosity. After Nakata, they were a possibility. He didn't just have a career. He changed the structure of what was possible for an entire continent of footballers. He is the reason a generation of Japanese players grew up believing Serie A was achievable. He was the first, and the first is always the hardest. After football, he traveled the world, over 50 countries in 2 years. He became a Special Olympics ambassador. He did everything except stand still, because that was always who Nakata was. Not someone defined by one thing, not even football. A man from Kofu, in the shadow of Mount Fuji, who looked at the world and decided all of it was his. Hidetoshi Nakata, the greatest Asian footballer in history, and arguably The most interesting if you made it to the end of this video. Thank you. This is the kind of story Football Hub exists to tell. Subscribe if you want more. We cover the stories that shape the game, not just the scores. See you in the next one.